And you can also open such image in, let's say, select this one and this one and this one. These my points which I'm choosing for some qualities. Let's say I can do some extrapolation curve here and highlight those 3 images, and then go to the right-hand pane and open them in OMERO.figure. I can also do it from the left. If I use the context menu, there is the open with as well, and say OMERO.figure. So those 3 images will be opened in OMERO.figure. Okay, very good. So I will check what I have here. Okay, these ones are comparable, this one is not, so I will get rid of him. And I have here an application, okay, which opened in a new tab, which is basically allowing me to create figures for scientific publication, or otherwise, like for presentation on the lab meeting or showing to your colleague. The application is basically based on having a lightweight recipe where I put the images on a canvas, and they are basically being adjusted as I see fit on the basis of OMERO.figure asking OMERO about the metadata and the other parameters I'm changing here. This is done as easily as I can, for example, align those images to grid, make them smaller, and then very quickly copy and paste, let's say, 3 columns, adjust them again. I can use the up and down arrow keys. And this workflow basically is dealing with and circumventing the classical cumbersome fighting with good softwares like, let's say, Zen or other proprietary softwares, where you can, let's say, export images as JPEGs or so, then put those JPEGs, which will be always from one plane only, into softwares like Adobe Illustrator again, or Photoshop, again, a great software. But the thing is that it's communicating between different softwares, and when you make a mistake, you would have to go the whole circle back. You would have to re-export another Z plane and re-render them in Zen, and then again go back to Photoshop and or Illustrator and change things again, which takes enormous amounts of time if you happen to ever do an figure for publication. OMERO.figure is much faster because it fetches the data directly from OMERO and everything is live. So having done those images in 3 columns, I can now say that the first column is a green channel, the second column is a red channel, and this will be my merge. Okay. Now I can, let's say, make the images, the panes a little bit bigger. These are quite small images with even smaller features inside them, subcellular features, and I can zoom in on all of them like so. So now the features are bigger. I can adjust it. The bottom row needs a little bit finer adjusting, different from the top row, like so. Now I can add a scale bar. And under Labels tab, I will add a scale bar, by default micrometers, but I know that these images are small as indicated, so I will go for 500 nanometers. You can see the scale bar popped in here. If you struggle with seeing it, there is a zooming button in the OMERO.figure itself, 500 nanometer scale bar. And I can adjust the pixel size if I am not happy with that, but in this case, it's okay. So I just leave it, and I can now start adding labels. So for the top, I can add some labels. Now I can use the connection between OMERO.figure and OMERO, and I can ask OMERO to add labels from channel names, like so, add labels channel. I will put them on on the top, make them a little bit bigger, and then say add, and they will pop up here in the above the images. I don't have to worry about the color. It will work automatically like so. So I had no idea what the channel names were. Of course, OMERO and OMERO.figure. I made sure that this information flows to me as I use those buttons by virtue of going to OMERO and querying the database, then giving me the right information and popping them as labels there. I can pop some more labels on the left vertical. For example, in this case, in dataset names, there are encoded the names of the antibodies used for the particular stainings. I can say add. You can see in this case they are both the same antibody, but of course they could be from any dataset, as I was picking them from the graph in the first place. Again, I had no idea what they were. And in this way, I have the figure almost done. Now, what is done very often is an crop and insert. So let's try that. I can copy this image and paste it immediately next to that. Now, again, align to grid. Pop it a little bit more to the left, make it a bit smaller. That's ideal. Now I select the crop, and let's say I can simply zoom in, and that will be my crop. Okay. Now I adjust it. Maybe I want to zoom in on this centriole only. I want to have an insert in that image. So I will simply, being on this crop, I will say copy and then go. This is a little bit less intuitive, to the labels tab, select the original image and say paste, to indicate that I'm pasting a region of interest, and the region of interest is the rectangular region which is defining the crop. Say paste, and you can see that the rectangle of the crop is indeed as an insert in the original panel. With that, I would like to have again a label. Let's say 100 nanometers. In the crop, you can see, of course, the label is also, so to say, alive, and it is respecting the fact that this image is heavily zoomed in. This would be for my top panel, except for me adding the regions which are coming ultimately from image JFIG. We know how this happened. We used those ROIs in the Fiji workflow. I showed you how the segmentation happened, and then we used them in OMERO Parade. Now, if I click on Edit and want to add such ROI on this image, I say Load ROIs, and I can see which one is the best. Yeah, this one, let's say. And having done so, I click OK, and you can see that the region of interest is indeed highlighted. Yeah, it's not the best. Let's try it on this one. It just happens. It depends on how well the segmentation went. And this one is much better. This one as well. I like these. Very good. I can delete the ROIs from here, and I can, let's say, change the color here from white to magenta and make them thicker. That's a little bit funky, but at least it demonstrates the point very nicely. So again, maybe the last brush up to snap them to grid, and I'm done with my figure. You know that in the real figure in publication, there are very often images from different modalities, microscopy, different microscopy types, and I can go now and demonstrate how to work with that. If I switch off the OMERO parade and go back to the web client, I will now go to the favorite dataset of ours, siRNA HeLa, and use the filtering by rating. You remember these are my favorite images. I select them, which we used before the break. I select them and I want to add them to OMERO.figure. Now, if I would just go and say, like so, if I would go and say open with OMERO.figure, it would open a new OMERO.figure with those images, which is not what I want. I want to add them to an existing figure, which I do as follows. I will click on the link on the chain icon on the top right, which denotes the link to those images, simply a URL address. And I will copy there using simply Control-C on my keyboard. And this link I will go to and the tab where my OMERO.figure is running and click on Add Image. Now I paste the link there and say Add Image. And you can see that the three images, which are the confocal, the conventional microscopy DV formats, have been added. I can now snap them to grid. They have to be a little bit more ready for that, like so. And again, put them into a column. And then I can again do copy and paste and paste and paste and change the, as you already know, change in the preview tab, the association with the channels. So first channel blue, second channel green, and third channel the first red. Like so. Fourth channel is then the merge. I can still adjust things like, let's say, the rendering settings in the green channel. Very good. I can now go and add the very important labels. In this case, these are much bigger images, and I know that the 10 micrometers will be just fine. You can see now the 10 micrometers label is there, and I can start adding the labels based on channels, like so. On the top, number 14, and the channel labels are here. So this is for the merge, 3 channels. And then I can go and add the labels on the left, let's say from key value pairs, as we discussed them at length during the metadata section on the left vertical. I can say add and say choose key. There's plenty of keys. What do we select? We select, let's say, temperature, image name, has phenotype, dataset name, cell cycle, incubation minutes. Include keys in the label can very often leak over the things and say, okay, so this one was incubated for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 10 minutes, but actually I don't like this. So I can simply remove the labels as quickly as that and say I want to go for tags. Again, left vertical. I know that the tagging is quite well done there because I remember this was 1 image per mitotic phase, and the tagging was prepared in the web client, and thus I'm having the tags here. Okay, here is one label which escaped me. I probably was too overkeen when deleting something, so I can simply say channels here and say on the top, and voila, the label is back. So in this manner, I have created a figure which is kind of decent. I can now add a legend or whatever. I can also, in the preview, create a projection of that image, or indeed change the Z plane as I see fit. So really, I don't have to come with a preconception and fear that if I make a mistake, I will set myself on a journey which is very long and painful in circles, trying to optimize something between 3 or 4 softwares. I can rectify the mistakes very quickly. Now, if I want to save the figure, I have a save button here, which saves the figure, which are called GBI Real Run 2022, and the URL will change. The GBI Real Run is a new name here. And I could also before export the figure as a PDF, meaning going out with OMERO. Okay, so exporting the figure is creating a PDF out of this figure. The figure is not somehow duplicating the images in OMERO, nothing like that. It's a lightweight structure called JSON, and it's basically a recipe where is written what labels should be where and what image numbers, IDs should be in which panel, and then the rest is being fetched from OMERO on the fly and shown in this app. So creating a new figure is a very lightweight operation. I just downloaded the PDF using this button here, and this just went out of OMERO and created a PDF locally, which I can open. Obviously, the first page is my figure itself, and on the second page, I have the metadata which are pertaining to that figure. So first of all, link to that figure is basically the link you just saw when I saved the figure, and you can use this link to the figure as many scientists are using, even in our institution. You can just grab it, copy it, go to your email and email it to your colleague. In case the colleague has permissions to see the images or your data in the OMERO server, in case they are already logged into the server, if they click on that link, what will happen, obviously, they will be navigated to that figure immediately. If they are not logged in, they will be confronted with the login page. They will put in the credentials, and then they will see immediately the figure. So in this easy manner, you can communicate with your colleagues. Then the further useful thing which is inside this PDF is links to the single images which were used for this figure. This is because very often there is a long turnover between sending the figure somewhere and feedback. If the feedback comes back saying change the panel 3A, you were wondering what is the underlying raw data underlying the panel 3A, and if you create yourself a PDF like so, this is the underlying image. It's right here, and you can go again very easily and correct any mistakes which were picked up by the reviewer reusing this image underlying the panel 3A. Okay, so this would be for what we wanted to show you in this OMERO workshop. We are 15 minutes from the deadline. I think that's a good moment to start winding it down. Come back, of course, to any unanswered questions if you come up with some more questions or whatever. And in general, thank you for your attention, and yeah, happy to answer any questions. Thank you.